Hello and welcome to 5 Year Club video number 205. I'm going to talk about a few random things at the beginning. Today I took my cat to the vet, and just to get the preliminary blood work done so that she could have her teeth cleaned, which because she's a very squirmy cat, and I guess cats are in general, she has to be sedated for her teeth to be cleaned. It was $241, which is 24 times what I paid for the off-screen cat right here. Come on, get on screen. Turn around. Come on, turn around. You know you want to turn around. Yeah! Now you're a movie star. Okay, so, $241. So that is a reminder. Cats are expensive. The tricky thing is that Molly's like 10 years old, 9, 10 years old, and that's when the expenses happen. So you get this kind of like love, money, cat time bomb. You love the cat more over time, and the cat has most of their health problems kind of towards the end of their life, not the beginning. And as a result, by the time the cat has health problems, you're already totally invested. You're definitely going to spend that money. So, just a reminder, pets are freaking expensive. The vet told me the teeth cleaning was going to be $300. If the teeth cleaning is $300, then the teeth cleaning and the blood work is $541 total. That's like my food budget for the month. Gone. All right, so this article that we'll talk a little bit about, when you're hot, career successes come in clusters. They did research on people, and they found that people's career successes are clustered together. So that's interesting. I'm not going to spend any time on this article. I'm just going to post it in the description because I think it is interesting. And our second article today is Silicon Valley homeless man receives job offers after going viral on social media. And so what happened here? Well, Permit Patty. And it looks like I'll have to refresh this because, yeah. So more or less, he had a sign that says, "Homeless, hungry for success, take a resume," which is a very different message to people than "I'm poor, give me money." And he had a car when he came here. He's trying to get a job in tech. He was living in his car, lost the car. Things are going well. Obviously, he didn't have a job yet. But kept at it with this sign. And, obviously he got lucky being picked up by the news. But you don't see too many, people with signs saying take a resume. And now is the time to do it because unemployment is at the lowest it's going to be. All right, and for the main course of video number 205, we have the next story in our cat hair covered book, The Japanese Family Storehouse. And we are beginning on book 4. There are 5 stories in book 4, so this is the first of those stories. A Tray of Good Things for a God. Amongst the large paintings hanging before the Buddha of Kiyomizu Temple in Kyoto is one inscribed with the name of a certain court draper. There is a story that he presented this to the temple when his prayer for a fortune of 100 kanmei was granted. Those who knew his business then can hardly credit that his present prosperous establishment is the same place, in the Muromachi Street. They never cease to marvel that so much money was made in one lifetime. Even now, of course, for greed is only human, we beg favors from Ebisu, Daikoku, Bishamon, and Benzaiten, tug at temple bell ropes, and offer up prayers for enough capital to start a business, but the chances of satisfaction have grown slim. Worldly cunning is more effective in our generation. Yeah, so even 333 years ago, worldly cunning was more effective than hoping for God's favor. There was a man called Kikyoya who, with the assistance of his wife, ran a small dyer's shop in Kyoto. Though they set high store by their chosen employment, I don't know what that means, working without a moment's respite and racking their honest brains for means of improving trade, each year they were obliged to admit that they were too busy to pound the rice in time for New Year's Day, and too short of money to buy any salted yellow tails to hang on the kitchen hooks. At Setsubun, they placed treasure ship charms beneath their pillows, scattered beans all over the house, and shouted, "Luck, come in!" But it made no difference. They remained as poor as ever. In desperation, they changed their tactics. "The usual thing is for everyone to worship gods and Buddhas of luck," said Kikyoya. "But from now on, we shall worship the god whom everyone else dislikes, Binbogami, the god of poverty." He made a queer-looking dummy of wood and straw, draped its body in a scanty russet kimono, set a paper cap on its head, and fixed a battered old fan in one hand. He placed this grotesque figure in the center of the season's decorations, and from New Year's Day to the Festival of Seven Herbs... And we're going to stop that video because we don't need to watch that kind of video around here. All right. He placed this grotesque figure in the center of the season's decorations, and from New Year's Day to the Festival of Seven Herbs, he did everything possible to honor it and offer it suitable refreshments. On the night of the last day, the god himself, trembling with pleasure, appeared in Kikyoya's dreams. "For years," said the god, "in the course of my routine visits to poor families, I have lain hidden and neglected in piles of debts. I have lain hidden and neglected in piles of debts in all kinds of wretched homes." Oh, he has lain hidden and neglected in piles of debts in all kinds of wretched homes. If ever I heard my name mentioned, it was used as an insulting word to reprove naughty children. And even if I went to a rich man's house, life was no less difficult. My liver was unsettled by the interminable tap-tap-tapping on the scales as he weighed his silver coins, and my stomach was turned by his fancy meals of vinegar-flavored raw duck or cryptomeria casseroles. I don't know what a cryptomeria casserole is, but that sounds interesting. Naturally, I am the god assigned to rich men's wives, and I must go around with them everywhere. When I am in the bedrooms with layers of mattresses beneath me, eiderdowns suspended from the ceiling above, and my face smothered in cotton wool pillows, the feel of it makes me itch all over, and the perfumes they smoke into their lily-white nightdresses are suffocatingly thick. I loathe their flower-viewing and theater-going trips, being shaken about in a palanquin behind stuffy velvet-edged blinds sends my head round in circles. And to come back at night to face glaring candles against gold-lacquered screens makes it even worse. The lights in poor men's houses, subdued by lanterns which have needed a change of paper for 10 years, are much more soothing. Sights like that of a housewife rising at midnight to refill a spluttering lamp and use her hair oil as a makeshift, scenes of necessity, these are the things which give me pleasure. For years now I have stood by and watched, but no one has ever acknowledged my presence. I have been snubbed, and being treated like a poor relation has made me all the more perverse. Until you took note of me this spring, I had been spending all of my time dragging people deeper and deeper into debt. This is the first time in history that the god of poverty has been worshipped, and has taken his meals from a private tray. I am eternally obliged to you. I shall transfer the penury which this house has inherited to some spendthrift second-generation millionaire, and I shall bring you prosperity at once. Remember, he said, and he repeated his words 2, 3, 4, 5 times, there are innumerable ways of earning a living. We all have our special talents. Willows are good at greenness, but flowers are better at being red. Kikyoya awoke, and the divine vision of his dreams was gone, but he did not forget these last words. They were evidently auspicious, and he pondered their meaning for some time. Since I am a dryer by trade, he thought, the god's remark about redness must surely refer to red flower dyes. But the Kobaniya firms have large stocks of these already, more than enough to meet the demand. Not only that, but recently sugar red dyes have come onto the market, and in a place as discriminating as Kyoto, it will be hardly impossible for me to make profits from any second-rate imitation. Day and night he experimented with new processes, and at last, by applying vinegar to a first layer of sapan dye and re-steaming the whole, he produced a color which was indistinguishable from genuine red flower. Keeping his discovery a secret, he dyed a quantity of cloth in this way and set off for Edo, walking all the way with the cloth across his shoulders. He sold his stock to the drapers in Honcho and bought a supply of North Country silk and cotton for sale on his return. By applying this two-way trade, like a sawyer who relaxes neither pulling nor pushing, in under 10 years he made a fortune of more than 1,000 kanmei. Kikyoya employed a large number of clerks, and to them he now left the practical matters of business. Meantime he enjoyed life to the full, as compensation for the weary years of labor in his youth. This surely is proper conduct. What use to a man is even a fortune of 10,000 kanmei, if he never ceases to work, but tires his body and racks his brain far into old age? He is dead before he knows that his life is passing. A man in his family trade is like a samurai in service. For daimyo who inherit whole provinces from their forebears, there is little more to gain. But it was never intended that the rank and file of retainers should read the revenues inscribed on their fathers' tombstones and contentedly continue at that level throughout life. Only if they perform meritorious services themselves and earn promotions to higher office and reward can they be said to have lived successfully. The case of a townsman is no different. There are those who are content to think of money-making as their father's department, and who, when they have inherited everything by a simple deed of legacy, suffer the family business to prosper as best as it can on the reserves of goodwill accumulated in the past. Or there are those who live lives of utter uselessness and indolence, on steady incomes from property rents or the never-failing interest from loans. These people have risen above themselves and care no longer what the world may think. From the age of 20, they lean on walking sticks, affect the flat caps of master merchants, and oblige their servants to follow them through the streets with long-poled sunshades. But, even granting that this money with which they spend is theirs by law, they live in ignorance of the dispensations of heaven. A man, it is decreed, is lacking in all discrimination till the age of 13. From then until the age of 24 or 25, he must abide by the guidance of his parents. Thereafter he must earn his living by his own efforts and his own responsibility, and if, by the age of 45, he has laid firm the foundations of his household's prosperity in his own lifetime, he may then take time for pleasure. I'm going to revisit this because this is an interesting sentence right there. Premature pensioners, retiring from work in the prime of manhood, giving notice to a host of family retainers and obliging them to seek new masters, betray the trust placed in them for the future, and bring distress to everyone. To consider the welfare of those in one's charge, to share the family's inheritance, to establish senior clerks in branches of the family business. This is the meaning of townsman success, the true way of a master. Feeding 3 people is not called supporting a household. That is reserved for those who earn enough for 5 and above. No more do we give the title master of an establishment to a man with a single servant. If there is none to call him sir, if his meals are not brought on a serving tray, if he takes each dish direct from his wife's hands, and his wife acts as table-maid, his belly may swell to great proportions, but no one can envy him his lot. I gotta say, this is definitely feudal Japan. Your wife is serving you dinner and nobody can envy you. Like, these were different times. And I'm not saying that because I'm saying they're better times. I'm just saying that it's clear from the context of the sentence that like they thought that was completely, unremarkable. He is keeping himself alive, but there are immense differences of degree contained in that one phrase. With this in mind, let none of you rest idle and content for a moment. Money is ever on the move, and if you devote your whole strength to its pursuit, there is no reason why you should not collect a great heap of it. Kikyoya had started his career in a household of 2, himself and his wife, but now he was commander-in-chief of a domestic army of 75. The mansion in which he lived was the answer to a merchant's prayer. There were 7 storehouses for treasure, and 9 reception rooms, and a garden where, besides hundreds and thousands of the usual trees and flowers, there were a number of those famous trees which money grows on. The name of his district was Millionaire Machi. All right, cool story. So, cool story, bro. And the name of the story was A Tray of Good Things for a God. So this was a man who focused on the god of poverty. That god of poverty was, he felt neglected, so he visited him in a dream, and the god gave him a little bit of a tip, the color red, and then this man figured out a cheaper way to produce red dye in a 2-way trade process, and that made him wealthy. Cool. All right, let's revisit this kind of like rules of what you should accomplish by a certain age. A man, it is decreed, is lacking in all discrimination until the age of 13. All right, that's still true. From then until the age of 24 or 25, he must abide by the guidance of his parents. I would say in the millennial generation, there are a lot of people who are 24 or 25 and are still kind of acting more like the 13 age. And there are a lot of reasons for that, but you don't have to grow up as fast in some ways now. But this is the one I find the most interesting is, so it says after 25 you got to earn your own stuff. And if by the age of 45 he has laid firm the foundations of his household's prosperity in his own lifetime, he may then take time for pleasure. It doesn't even say that you quit working. It just says at that point you might start vacationing. And their definition of household is not 3 people, it's 5 people. So it's saying that if you can't support 5 people by the time you're 45, don't go on a vacation. That's pretty rough. The other thing I want to think about here is what percentage of your income would you need to save in order to be financially independent by the age of 45? Well, it's going to be around, so 50% gets you there in I think 16 or 17 years. Obviously depends on the return rate of the market and some other stuff, but so we can say 45 minus 16, and that gets us to 29. So 28 or 29 is when you would begin working, such that at 45, if you had saved 50%, you would be financially independent. If you start working at 25, then you have a full 20 years, and so you wouldn't need to save 50%. Maybe you need to save something like 45%. I don't know. I haven't looked at the math recently. But point is, I'm trying to connect this story, this freaking 333-year-old story, with the actual mechanics of what you need to do. So it's going to be a savings rate once you become an adult, somewhere in the range of 40 to 50% until you're 45, before you can take a vacation, and you need to be supporting 5 people. Who knows if you need to be supporting 5 people? I don't have much of an opinion on that. That brings us to the end, though, of 5-Year Club video number 205. I hope you enjoyed this story. A Tray of Good Things for a God. And it's going to be on to the next one now.